Good morning, my loves. How's everybody doing today? Hello, hello, and welcome back to my studio. I'm very happy showing it off every single time. I do hope everybody's doing well. Hopefully. We do this. Hell yeah. Oh. It wasn't instant like the notification said. Well, we were just starting. You want a refund? What did you spend? Refund implies spending. Did you spend detention points on me? I'm sorry. I do hope everybody's having a good day. Thank you so much. Why did that not pop up? I don't know why that didn't pop up on screen. My hair looks like, thank you so much. Worshipper of Cuddy, thank you so much for following. Hey. Well, I'm so goddamn glad that works. Hi. Fucked up. Why is there an I don't know why that was like that. Alrighty. Well, today I'm gonna start with some not great news, unfortunately for everybody. Not that like anything's bad necessarily with me. Things right now are actually going pretty great. Let me swap on light too, so we got some there. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, one of the things I want to bring up is the Trump administration, the Health and Human Services released a past review kind of filled with just crazy pseudoscience and misunderstandings on trans people. Aaron in the morning covered it and went through it, and I wanted to go through the thank you so much for the subs, Rich. I wanted to run through the Trump review, as it were, in order to, I guess, see what exactly they're saying about people like me and maybe offer a counterpoint. Um, Number one, just like keeping myself informed, keeping y'all informed, because it's fucking scary out there, y'all. But we don't win anything by sticking our heads in the sand, unfortunately, as much as I wish that it were that easy. Things are not going to get better unless we know what's going on. And we fight against it. Which does suck. Let's bring ourselves over here. I wanted to go over the Aaron in the Morning fact check on the HHS review and the Trump review. Aaron Reed claiming it's full of pseudoscience, pushing conversion therapy. It's just predetermined conclusion. Very, very. All right. Let's steady ourselves before we get into this at 1 p.m. God. Alright. Crazy that we still need to, like, go over stuff like this when there is all of this, you know, support. I will say that the average person, like, the ultimate, like, with all of this misinformation being spread about trans people, ultimately, the misinformation is going to get corrected. It's just going to take a lot of time and energy. Which does mean that eventually people will, I think generally normal people are pretty supportive of trans folks. Or at least don't care. It's kind of weird to care as much as this. Unless you're trans. Which, like, I'm not allowed to make calls like that. But on Thursday, May 1st, the Trump administration's Department of Health and Human Services, now helmed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his brainworm, released a report masquerading as science, but serving as a blunt instrument of ideological warfare against transgender youth. Commissioned under Trump's January 28th executive order, the report's conclusions were preordained, its framing designed to validate a political agenda rather than present credible research. It names no authors, has no peer-reviewed processes, and bears no hallmarks of legitimate scientific inquiry, just a faceless document no one was willing to claim. Among its recommendations, conversion therapy for trans youth, the reclassification of social transition as a medical treatment, and an absurd assertion that transgender care should be judged not by patient well-being or satisfaction, but by employability and the presence of romantic partners. Yeah. Sorry. You need anything else?
No.
Okay. At more than 400 pages, the document is poised to draw a wave of fact checks and scientific rebuttals. The American Academy of Pediatrics has already issued a sharp condemnation, calling it inaccurate, misleading, and a distortion of the current medical consensus. This fact check won't capture every falsehood in the report, there are hundreds, but it will examine some of its most egregious and harmful pseudoscientific claims. Before delving into the document's most egregious factual distortions, it's worth emphasizing that it has no listed author and bears none of the hallmarks of scientific rigor. There is no evidence of peer review. Instead, the report reads less like a medical analysis and more like an anti-trans screed. Politicized, inflammatory, and devoid of scholarly grounding. Tellingly, transgender researchers have already unearthed EXIF data embedded in the file, revealing that the document's compilers include Alex Byrne, an anti-transgender philosophy major, and 2 political consultants, not scientists, and certainly not experts in gender-affirming care. That said, regardless of their backgrounds, their assertions can and should be challenged. This fact check will endeavor to do just that. You are allowed to say whatever you like. You are protected from retaliation against the things that you say by the government. Or at least you usually are, unless you tweet angry at a executive. Jesus Christ. Calling them MFs and FMs, insane. I am gonna, okay, I'm gonna say right now, single issue voters are naive. You need to get a wider perspective, and also you're wrong. But, sorry. I will debate abortion with you if you want. I will tell you exactly why you're wrong. But that's, I don't think, what you want to get into here. No, I think it ultimately it is naive to vote for any political candidate based on only one perspective. Especially if that perspective is the right of a woman to do what they want with their body. In the meantime, I'm going to continue. Claim. Transgender healthcare should be judged based on how unemployed a person is or how many romantic partners they have. Fact. Transgender healthcare, like all medical care, is judged according to the impact it has on patient health as well as patient satisfaction with the care received. On the other, from page 47 of the Trump Review, on the other hand, while the self-reported subjective outcomes were good, objective measures told a different story. 1 in 7 MFs and 1 in 36 FMs had attempted suicide after treatment began. Of the total number of patients seen in the previous 10 years, 3 had committed suicide after treatment. 60% of the MFs and 37% of the FMs were unemployed, and 59% and 33% had no romantic partners. Commenting on previous studies of the SRS, the researchers noted it is possible to discern a trend in these reports. Okay. Insane. Just absolutely insane thing to say on the surface. Not going at all into why these people might have committed suicide, why they might have attempted suicide for literally a litany of other reasons that might not be tied to their transgender identity, or maybe because they're being treated like shit because of their transgender identity by the people around them. That's crazy. It's crazy to me when the solution to a bunch of people are feeling like total shit enough to kill themselves. The solution that's being posited is not let's stop being such a bunch of assholes to them and like maybe understand even a little bit about their experience, but instead they must be committing suicide because they're trans, and definitely not because of the things that there was the discussion that we had last stream about how I personally believe that Christian faith, especially just because it's the predominant one that I have like experience in and I can criticize, and you know, it's the basis of American society one way or another, as Puritans building a society that they wanted to be in. It externalizes blame, right? For a lot of things, it makes it so like it's not your fault most of the time. I think it discourages introspection because it is better to just have faith. It's a very useful tool for people that want to keep you oppressed. At the very least. I'm not saying that religion doesn't have a purpose. Outside of that, I'm not saying people can't worship whatever they want. I'm saying that unfortunately, right now, religion is being used as a tool to oppress people. I don't have a lot of I don't have any problem with personal religious practices. I do have a lot of problems with, you know, organized religion, I guess. It's power, right? It's all about power. Especially Christianity, it's about power. Very early in the review, the unnamed reviewer must contend with the fact that gender-affirming care has high satisfaction rates. In recent years, many reports have emerged showing high levels of satisfaction and low levels of detransition for transgender people. A recent report in the 2022 U.S. Transgender Survey shows that out of 90,000 transgender people, less than 1% report feeling less satisfied after beginning gender-affirming hormone therapy, with the vast majority feeling a lot more satisfied. Detransition appears to be similarly rare. One recent study out of Australia found complete data on 548 of 552 transgender patients and discovered only 1% of transgender youth detransitioned over several years before being transferred to adult services. Another study showed that transgender youth are stable in their gender identity 5 years after transitioning, with only 2.5% re-identifying as their assigned sex at birth. Even the CAS review found less than 10 detransitioners out of the 3,000 trans youth active patients or waiting list patients in England. The detransition and dissatisfaction rate for transgender care is remarkably low, and we have years and years of research on this. The numbers that they give for a lot of these things are just wrong. They don't want you to reckon with the fact that a normal surgery has like a 15% regret rate. It's because these checks, the checks for transgender care, are so rigorous and they give you so much information and they give you so much detail that by the time you're actually doing anything serious to your body, you have so much time and information to make your own decision that it's very difficult for somebody who's not happy to receive care and then stay unhappy with that care for any length of time. Ultimately, gender affirming care is about how things feel, right? It's something that's very personal. Everybody has a different experience with gender. It just their own what they want to be and like how that interacts with the with society and the societal views of what gender is, of what the genders are. It takes it would take a lot of I find it very ridiculous that this much evidence is out there, but people choose to not look at it or are being, you know, willfully ignorant. Give me a sec. We're packing another bowl real quick. I have been using the Mighty vape that my partner got for us both, and it is, oh, it's so wonderful. We have all of this left over, like herb, after we're done. Kind of get this nice crazy salad at the end, which can be used to be either smoked again, you know, giving a less potent result, or I can use it and use it in edibles, which is excellent. I love being, you know, being able to use all the parts of deer, so to speak. Oh my goodness. This called Spindrake. I didn't see why it didn't pop up, but thank you so much for the follow. It did make a sound alert for me. Am I still in just chatting? I don't even remember what my category is right now. I should be. I am. Just making sure. Moss sent you. Uh-oh. She's telling her friends? Disgusting. It's so true. I do have a couple articles you sent me that I wanted to go over after we covered this, but I thought it was poignant to start with the Trump review because it's kind of like the big thing having to do with my people. Are you the Moss, or do you just have a connection to the Moss? Alright. Anti-transgender activists have long struggled to rebut the high satisfaction rates reported by those who receive gender-affirming care, and the authors of this report are no exception. Unable to discredit those numbers directly, the reviewer pivots instead, arguing that satisfaction is irrelevant because objectively transgender people are doing poorly. The evidence, a single 1988 study, nearly 40 years old, claiming that 60% of male to female and 37% of female to male transitioners were unemployed and many lacked romantic partners. These are held up as objective measures. It is important to note that all of these potential outcome measurements may be heavily influenced by transphobic sentiments in society, especially in 1988. Should transgender people be judged on their ability to be employed or their romantic partners? Their own discrimination may then be used against their ability to access medication. According to the Advocates for Transgender Equality, more than 1 in 4 transgender people have lost a job due to bias, and 3/4 report experiencing workplace discrimination. Therefore, it is inaccurate to blame transgender people and their medication for what appears to be an issue with societal discrimination. I think that is a very, very good point. I can't say for sure, right? I'm never going to be able to claim for sure and like have a case that the reason I got canned was because of discrimination, right? But it is a little crazy that as soon as the person who always gave me weird looks in the bathroom got in charge of my department, I was gone. Listen, I made mistakes, right? I screwed up a couple times, but I was literally in the middle of working with my manager to fix them. And from what I saw, my manager, they went right over his fucking head. He was willing to work with me. They just did not want to see it. It was easier to get rid of me. I'd already complained once. That might have been my downfall, right? Is like opening my mouth one time. Somebody in the orientation for work, and we're talking workplace discrimination, right? I definitely felt that one. Because in the orientation for work, one of the people in the orientation, not only did the person in the orientation dead name me, but the person running the orientation dead named me, but another person who was taking the class just said some blatantly transphobic shit, while looking right at me. So, you know. Like, it doesn't bother me as much as maybe it might affect somebody else. But it still affects me. And obviously it affects my career prospects. It's harder to, like, receive a job in the first place as a trans person, because everybody that goes to hire you has to, like, reckon with, do I want a trans person on my staff? Is it gonna cause more problems than it's worth? And that fucking sucks. It shouldn't be a judgment that somebody has to have just to get a job. The idea that transgender people are unreasonably or suspiciously happy in the face of poor actual life circumstances has a long history in the mistreatment of transgender people. In 1979, conservative activist Dr. Paul McHugh abruptly ended gender-affirming surgeries at Johns Hopkins. He based the decision on a study that judged the effectiveness of transition with employment status, legal difficulties, and entering into relationships. Notably, points were deducted for transgender people entering into gay relationships. Incredible. Surgeries have since restarted, with Hughes' history being described as a long shadow cast on Johns Hopkins Hospital. Alright. Let's take a sip of my small soda. Hey, Vixenova. Claim European countries are pulling back on transgender healthcare. The talking point that Europe is pulling back on transgender care is now thoroughly outdated. In fact, several European nations have moved in the opposite direction. France, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland have all released recent reports that directly contradict the rationale behind documents like the Cass Review and this freshly released Trump administration review. Starting in 2020, the PMT began to face steadily growing scrutiny from public health authorities worldwide, resulting in substantial reversals of clinical protocols in an increasing number of countries. That is not happening. That's just not right. What are we doing? Right now we're going over Aaron in the Morning's review of the Trump HHS review for transgender people. I think people were taking to calling it the Trump review because they were cowards and didn't put a title on it. Or like an author on it. But remember, everyone doing this, everyone who does this to people, who is advocating for this kind of legislation, who is writing and administering these kind of reports, everybody who is doing this, taking these evil actions to repress minorities and limit their access to healthcare and life-saving medicine, they all have names, they all have faces, and they do all have addresses. Just saying. It's important to remember these things. Gotta help your hubby with tea? Hell yeah! Going to the mall? Give him that boy juice. Amen. Trans men are the only real men. That one's a controversial take. In recent years, US politicians have selectively framed European healthcare policies to justify restrictions on transgender care, seizing on a handful of conservative policies to claim that Europe is pulling back. The most extreme example, United Kingdom's Cass Review, has been wielded to justify a near total ban on puberty blockers and even cited in US Supreme Court arguments. This document makes a similar argument, claiming that European countries, starting in 2020, began reversing course on gender-affirming healthcare, with the culmination of such reversals being the Cass Review. This claim is just no longer true. Since the Cass Review's release, numerous European countries and medical associations have actually changed course. In December 2024, the French Society of Pediatric Endocrinology and Diabetology released a groundbreaking national medical consensus on transgender youth care. Importantly, the French guidelines are now recommend in favor transgender youth care, denounce a wait-and-see approach for transgender adolescents, and promote individualized care for every transgender patient, a stark contrast with the Trump HHS review. Similarly, new medical guidelines from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland reaffirmed the importance of gender-affirming care for transgender youth and issued sharp critiques of the Cass Review, calling out its severe methodological flaws and misrepresentations the Trump HHS review shares. The Trump HHS review acknowledges these updated European guidelines but dismisses them as merely sparking considerable debate. It makes no effort to engage with their findings point by point. Instead, it glosses over their conclusions, deriding them as products of WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, and falsely claiming they are not evidence-based. In reality, these guidelines are backed by extensive, unbiased citations, the endorsement of major medical organizations, and transparent authorship, none of which can be said of the Trump HHS review. They're fucking going for it. Aaron is an incredible journalist, genuinely. I have a lot of respect for people like Aaron Reed who are genuinely on the front lines of shit like this. Morning, 80. Yeah. I think that genuinely like reviews like this in the cast review are gonna, be the amount of effort that's gonna go into debunking them genuinely might outstrip the effort put to spread misinformation. The only people that are getting fooled are stupid people, and we just kind of have to hope that there aren't as many stupid people. Which I know maybe is maybe that's a shallow hope, but I would like to believe that people aren't stupid, at least genuinely. Australia just finished their elections. That's good. I don't actually know anything about Australian politics. I know that the Liberals won in Canada, which is awesome, citing pretty much Trump for their swing to victory. All right. Claim transgender people may actually just be gay, and transitioning is a form of conversion therapy. Fact, gender and sexuality are different. Many transgender people identify as gay or bisexual after transition, and gay acceptance is higher than trans acceptance. Apparently ignored was the related possibility that transition may appeal to young gay men and lesbians suffering from social disapproval of their homosexuality. Do you really think that somebody, like genuinely, do you really think somebody who is like suffering from societal, disapproval of their homosexuality would decide to fucking transition about it? Like, yeah, I'm getting hated on for being gay, so why don't I just go do something way worse for my social standing? When you become trans, and this is something that I don't know a lot of people, like, you probably hear about it, but when you come out as trans, it changes your life, like, completely. Because everybody has an opinion on it. And they're going to make it your problem. You don't get to just be okay, like, you can't, most of the time you can't just say you're trans and then have it be fine, right? Like, everybody's like, yeah, cool, whatever. That's just not the way it works. Yeah, it adds to it, exactly. And now people are like, again, people are hyper aware of like how feminine or masculine you are or act or look or present, right? This is a frustratingly stupid point. Yeah, absolutely. Never once felt like your decision to transition was social pressure. Absolutely. It's something you want for yourself, and it has to be. Like, with this, again, and I mentioned this earlier, with the amount of, like, things that you have to change, you have to want it. You have to want it. Like, it took a lot. There was part of the last discussion that I had with my parents, was them being frustrated that I hadn't told them earlier. And the answer is just that I was scared because I genuinely don't know how people will react. I think it's really fucking scary to tell people that. I mean, fuck, it cost me my relationship, at least in part. No matter how okay somebody says they are with it, it doesn't change the fact that my partner cried when I told her that I was trans the first time. And, like, I don't blame her for that, but it hurts, right? Everything changes. It's just genuinely stupid and frustrating to say that somebody would choose that over just like being gay. People are way more okay with gay people now. The decision to not transition is a social pressure, absolutely. People try to hold you in place because they think they know better than you. I think that's maybe the most frustrating part, is that so many people is that everybody has an opinion on it, and you are clearly too stupid to have formed an opinion on your own. It took me like 3 years to decide I wanted to change my gender from male to political. True. My ex-wife was straight up like, I don't think you're a woman, and asked me a whole bunch of questions about it, like, well, what do you think a woman is, and why do you want to be one? Like, she was upset when I brought up the notion of being trans. That actually happened to me as well. I was interrogated on all of the reasons that, like, I wanted to be a woman and what I felt like a woman was, and then she eventually told me that I believe she, like, originally was like, I don't think that this is the right thing, because I didn't have, I like, my expectations of being a woman were too shallow. It's the burden of other people's thoughts, absolutely. Yeah, people all have a fucking opinion on it. It can't ever just be your decision. It has to be like, of course you have to be like, you're influenced by something else, or somebody's making you do it, or you're just been tricked, or like, what, it can't possibly be that you're making an educated decision. It must be some fucking conspiracy. Lots of women we know freak out at the idea that someone wants to be a woman, usually from folks that don't like womanhood, or even might transition if they didn't cut themselves off from the idea. Absolutely. The claim that transgender people are actually just gay is one that has been made repeatedly by those opposed to gender-affirming care, and one that has been repeatedly debunked. The claim is that people transition for social exceptions, a claim that stretches credulity given differential exceptions of gay and transgender people. To be fair, I was watching a lot of TikTok videos at the time that kind of made me think about it more. Well, I mean, listen, first of all, the TikTok algorithm is very, very good at giving you exactly what you're interested in, and even if you don't want to think about it, the algorithm probably knows. Yeah, people talking about it online, it's you didn't have the words for your experience. That's education, right? It's just people talking about this stuff gives you the words to define an internal experience that is difficult to explain. There are more tactful ways I could say this, but the gist of it was spending a lot of time being like, would I be putting a target on my back? Is this a target I want to put on my back? Absolutely. I was one of, like, when I came out, I was pushed to come out to a large group of people, because, pressure. I'm not gonna get into it, but one of the groups I came out to was my D&D group, and someone in the D&D group told me, like, are you sure you're not just a feminine man? Are you sure you're not just non-binary? And like, it's like, yeah, bitch, I fucking thought about it a little bit. Like, it's not just a decision I'm making randomly. Like, why would I come to something like this and just to say that that's what I want to do? There's so much, like, they don't give you any credit for, like, the fact that you might be able to make an educated decision with evidence. Hermeneutic injustice, the ways in which not having language to describe something perpetuates injustice. Yes. The target on the back is what's scary. Yeah, it's scary. It's scary to be trans in a world that actively hates trans people, and that's the thing is that's part of what they want, right? They're doing this to make you feel scared. They're doing this to push you back into the closet, because they don't care about what happens to you. They just want to stop seeing and thinking about you, which ultimately means pushing trans people back in the closet or eradicating them, which is, you know, the big G word. The general rule of thumb is that if you just hear someone transitioned, those first questions doubting it are absolutely ones already considered. Absolutely. People, like, it's not just like, it's so frustrating. Here, I'm gonna refresh the chat again. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay. That should be better now. All right. You're not making life choices exactly the way I would. That can't be right. Exactly. People, again, people have an opinion about it. About something that really isn't like something that needs an opinion. Like, I'm not asking for your opinion. I think I said this to my parents, right, when I came out. It's like, I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm not asking for, like, judgment on this. I'm already doing it. I've been taking hormones for years, and you're not stopping me. I want you to know. Same with disabilities, yeah. Absolutely. All right. The claim is a trivial transition for social acceptance, a claim that stretches credulity given differential exceptions to gain transgender people. This is not born out of factual research and common sense LGBTQ plus prevalence among transgender people. Attitudes towards transgender people tend to be significantly more negative, according to an article in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. This contributes to a much higher rate of violence and discrimination. Many transgender people, such as celebrity Laverne Cox, report that the most common response to coming out is, "Couldn't you just been gay?" According to the 2012 National Transgender Discrimination Survey, most transgender people identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or queer after transition. If transition was being used to cure being gay, it is a startlingly ineffective one. That is a good line. Yeah, building community is important. Building local community, especially like in your local area. I know it's not super easy sometimes. Some people don't have that good fortune. But I believe the community that you're nearby is very good. You can't put you in a Game Boy Color. I'm a Game Boy Advance. I tried a gay man relationship once. Now we're both trans women. Yeah, right. There's so much misogyny and homophobia all tied up in transphobia. I guess it's probably bad. I know a lot of people say like transmisia has been on the up and up, right? Like people are using transmisia because a lot of people piss on their shit in their pants. Like I'm not afraid of trans people, even though they are. Transmisia. Let me look it up. An attitude, belief, behavior, policy that stigmatizes or harms trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people. Instead of transphobia, which like the idea of transphobia is saying like you don't support trans people, you are not like afraid of them, but it's like prejudice against them. But Mizia is like it highlights the hatred that they have for the identity, right? Vocab day with April. Every day with me is vocab day. I hope that you come away from conversations with me knowing new things. It's the same thing, right? It just it highlights the hatred that they have for the identity rather than like the fear of the identity, which kind of I feel like it also centers blame on the person rather than like an irrational fear, right? Phobias are irrational, but Mizzy is targeted and purposeful. Yeah, that idea basically. It means essentially the same thing. I'm not afraid of you, I just hate you and want you to die. Exactly, you're not transphobic, you're just transmissive. There is coffee, by the way. I'm actually gonna top myself up real quick. Tea or coffee better? I personally like I like coffee better. Um just kind of a circumstantial thing. I like bitter flavors better. I have better memories associated with coffee and it makes me feel more relaxed. On top of the fact that I have ADHD and the extra caffeine it kind of helps me cool off and chill. Um as well as have that little bit of energy. I do like tea though. I like tea a lot, and I have a nice little tea set. I just don't do it as often. I kind of like go between the two. But today was a coffee morning. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Drinking water is good for you. I've been trying to get away from sodas and stuff. I've been drinking a lot more iced teas. I've been drinking like Gatorade and stuff like that. That's a little bit better for me than water. Still got a lot of sugar in it, but it's got electrolytes in it. That's what plants crave. You would shake them up and deflate them? Oh, wow. Just not a big fan of carbonation. Oh, it hurts your tummy. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, Merlin, hello. I can see you there. Do you see him?
Void.
He's just underneath my desk a little bit. Hello, baby. Are you so cute? Oh, little baby. Yeah. Did you wake up from your nap and you wanted to go say hi to 80?
And she doesn't know I've been fed yet. I might be getting breakfast.
He is a little baby. What a prince. Alright. Claim transgender youth are more common today because of mass social contagion. and transgender people are experiencing rapid onset gender dysphoria. Fact. Transgender people often know about their gender identity for years before coming out, which can appear rapid. The increase in recent years is not due to contagion, a discredited theory, but rather increased social acceptance of transgender people. From page 246 of the review, as discussed in chapter 4, social influences have plausibly contributed to the dramatic increase of adolescents presenting to pediatric gender medicine clinics over the past decade. Adolescents' need for belonging and acceptance can be met by online communities and spaces centered around identity. See also the discussion of rapid onset gender dysphoria in the same chapter. In several instances, the report pushes rapid onset gender dysphoria and social contagion as potential reasons for the apparent increase in transgender individuals in recent years, raising concerns that these individuals will detransition. A letter from over 60 psychological organizations, the Coalition for the Advancement and Application of Psychological Science, calls for the elimination of the term, stating, "There are no sound empirical studies of ROGD, and there is no evidence that ROGD aligns with the lived experiences of transgender children and adolescents." A study in the prestigious Journal of Pediatrics entirely debunked the concept of ROGD, determining that most transgender people know their identity for years before they come out and seek treatment for gender dysphoria. When transgender people finally do come out, many are overjoyed to finally reveal their true self to the world around them. To others, however, the process may seem rapid. To ascertain whether transgender identification occurs rapidly, researchers directly asked transgender teenagers, "How long have you known you were transgender?" They discovered that on average, transgender people know their identity for 4 years before first coming out and presenting for treatment. Rapid onset self-discovery and acceptance, right? It's so terrible for them. Well, of course, you gotta remember, this entire thing, it's the tone of it too, right? Is that they think of transgenderness as a disease, as something bad, something to avoid, like a disorder in your brain. Something is wrong with you, and they need to fix it. And that is not only a result of the widely harmful practices and stigmatization that we have of mental health, in especially the United States. Yeah, my favorite disease makes me feel cute and pretty, right? But it's a misunderstanding of transness. Rain, you got it. How you doing? Hope everybody's doing well. All right. In the early 1900s, the rates of left-handedness hovered between 3 and 4%. Left-handedness rates then skyrocketed to 12% where it has leveled off ever since. This was, of course, not caused by a massive social contagion of left-handedness. Rather, increases in acceptance led to people feeling more comfortable using their left hand. In the 1940s, anti-left-handedness researcher Abram Blau decried the cultural influences of left-handedness and the progressive campaigns of allowing the child to be free to choose the side for himself. In an article released in 1979, Dr. Bernard McKenna said of the growth of left-handedness, "We used to call everybody a deviant who didn't conform. We just eventually learned better. There was recognition by medical authorities that left-handedness was normal, and that tying the hand up in a child often caused stuttering." Sound familiar? You could see the growth in left-handedness here. That is really impressive. But yeah, it's survivorship bias, right? I don't know if you've seen the survivorship bias. Obviously, I think a lot of people have seen this image You know, if planes, you know, they had a bunch of planes coming back from battle, and they recorded all of the places that the planes had gotten shot. You know, the natural solution is to reinforce the places they've been shot at, but that misses the point that the planes that didn't come back are the ones that got shot in other places that are not recorded here. So actually, these are more or less the safe places to get shot. Yeah, exactly. So, like, when you see things like transgender acceptance getting raised in general society, you start seeing more trans people because they're actually able to be there to give you data. There were less before because they were either in hiding or dead. Exactly. It would be like seeing this and then blaming the pilots. Well, I guess it'd be like blaming the plane. The plane's woke, and that's why all the pilots exploded. They did take out the load-bearing DEI in the planes, and that did make them start crashing, so I don't know. Claim psychiatric care for transgender youth is not conversion therapy. Conversely, conversion therapy to treat gender dysphoria can work. Fact, conversion therapy is enormously harmful for transgender youth, and psychotherapy alone has never been shown as an effective in curing gender dysphoria. Page 256 of the Trump HHS review. Critics of exploratory psychotherapy for gender dysphoria claim that therapists are trying to promote gender identities that are aligned with the person's sex assigned at birth. A less theoretically laden description would be that some therapists are trying to help children and adolescents come to terms with their bodies. Discomfort with the sexed body or with societal sex-based expectations is common during puberty and adolescence. For this and other reasons, characterizing as conversion therapy any approach focused on reducing a minor's distress about their body or social role is problematic and potentially harmful rhetorical device. Crazy thing to say in a scientific paper. And most people would agree that the public data known about the percentage of trans people in the US is lower than the actual amount. Yeah. The review flounders when attempting to present viable alternatives to gender-affirming care, chief among them psychotherapy. There is no comprehensive evidence that talk therapy alone can treat gender dysphoria. On the contrary, the documented harms of conversion therapy are extensive. LGBTQ plus youth subjected to it are more than 2.5 times as likely to report multiple suicide attempts in the past year. The report attempts to have it both ways, insisting that psychotherapy for gender dysphoria isn't conversion therapy, while also suggesting in the same breath that conversion therapy, psychotherapy, or psychiatric care in the report might actually be effective in curing gender dysphoria. The report leans heavily on the favorite approach for anti-transgender activists called gender exploratory therapy, a new type of conversion therapy with a misleading name which seeks to persuade transgender individuals that their gender identity stems from anything but authentic transness. While this form of therapy purports to help transgender youth explore their gender identity, the actual intent is far more sinister. In these sessions, therapists repeatedly explore a seemingly endless list of possible reasons for being transgender, despite lacking evidence for any specific factor causes someone to be trans. Crucially, there's no scenario where being transgender is acknowledged or accepted. Letters endorsing hormone therapy for trans youth are never issued, and often their social transition is not allowed. Instead, the therapy aims to psychologically manipulate teenagers, sometimes for years, until they abandon their pursuit of transitioning. This stance is further highlighted by several practitioners who assert that transgender individuals shouldn't be allowed to transition until the age of 25. They want kids to die. They say they want to protect kids, but they want kids to die. They want trans kids to die, specifically. Because they want trans kids, instead of trans kids being allowed to go through the puberty that they want to go through, and experiencing that and having natural growth in their body that fits their brain and makes them feel good, right? because it's harder to tell, right? This is going to be the all we can always tell crowd. They want to be able to clock you. They want to be able to know so that they can more easily discriminate against you, so they don't get trapped, right? You know, you're gonna hear that fucking slur thrown around, but like, I fucking loathe that word being used to describe any kind of like feminine man or transgender woman, because it leads into that, like, it is still legal in a lot of places to use the defense of they were trans. Like, I didn't know they were trans, and we went to go have sex, and I found out that she was trans, and I fucking killed her, and that's a legal defense you can use, and it's okay, and you can get off with it. Like, that's fucking crazy. Yeah, it's for me, but not for thee. We want to protect kids, but only the ones we deem acceptable by our standards. They want to protect cis kids. And they don't even really want to protect cis kids. They want more cis kids to exist so they can put them into work in their factories. They want more cis babies to be born so that there can be more people to exploit. The trans kids won't conform and become good little cogs for the system. Gotta pull the weeds that won't be subservient to the upper class. Exactly. Like, literally, yes. You are getting it. You're getting it with your big brain. You're seeing the bigger picture. The Gender Exploratory Therapy Association frequently denies that it engages in conversion therapy. They assert that their therapeutic approach is neutral in nature and does not prejudge outcomes. Yet this association opposes bans on conversion therapy, submits public comments in favor of blocking Title IX protections against gender discrimination for trans students, and its official account has been observed endorsing tweets like "trans healthcare is the latest in a long line of medical fads." Such actions hardly mirror the claims of a neutral, non-prejudiced entity or neutral approach. So true. The Trump HHS report will undoubtedly face withering scrutiny in the weeks and months ahead. Similar documents have already been dismantled by leading medical institutions, including the Yale Integrity Project, for their distortions and bad faith science. While this fact check is not exhaustive, it exposes several of the report's most dangerous falsehoods and pseudoscientific claims. For those continuing to track its fallout, I'll be cataloging the additional errors and misrepresentations in an ongoing thread on Blue Sky. So if you want to learn more, you can go to the Erin in the Morning Blue Sky account. Please go check her out. Please support Erin. She's doing incredible work keeping information, about this stuff free and open to access. So, I also wanted to talk about the UK's autism tests for trans youth. I know that this is again off in the Erin in the Morning article. This one's written by another journalist with them. Sorry, I'm not gonna subscribe right now. I've actually already subscribed in. I'm just not signed in. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Oh my goodness. Oh. I think another component is just that kids think and believe a lot of weird things, so we can't trust them with their minds and bodies. Part of being a kid is learning what you like and dislike about things anyways. Right, okay, so people give children, like, there's a weird conception, especially I think in the US, that children have like no agency and they can't possibly be smart enough to figure something out for themselves, as if like I didn't know anything about myself when I was a kid, right? Like I definitely didn't form any lifelong opinions or any like nothing formative happened to me when I was a child. That definitely didn't happen, right? I definitely didn't start my lifelong hobbies when I was a child. I definitely didn't, develop my love for cats as pets when I was a kid. I definitely didn't start the formulation of my love for the arts as a kid, or my love of horror from reading Goosebumps as a kid. None of those things happened. I definitely didn't have the ability to have an opinion about how I wanted to cut my hair, or how I wanted to dress or smell or look. Like, fucking, are you serious? I just didn't have the language to explain it. I love drawing in video games as a kid. That's all I do right now. Exactly. Like, ugh, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because you don't. Ugh. You're not granting children agency. You're not giving them the right to decide stuff for themselves. Mostly because I truly believe that a lot of parents in the US, at least of the generation that my parents are from, genuinely think of their children as property. And like an extent, instead of like an actual person that might have thoughts and opinions that differ from their own, they truly think of children as just an extension of their own will. Which is just not how people work, right? It's like main character syndrome to me. Like you lose the ability to be empathetic. You get so focused on your own goals. I mean, fuck, we've been watching a lot of My Hero, and this is like a major arc of one of the characters is like learning that your children are not extensions of your will and in fact will resent you for doing that. Today on Twitter, I was reading a thread that started with, how come parents get so upset and defensive when you tell them you think you might be autistic? And a lot of the responses were so sad with anecdotes. Oh no. Would you mind sending that to me, or did you not save it? Parental projecting and wanting nothing wrong with their child. Yeah, I don't. It's less about parents. I think care a lot less about actually helping. I actually have I do actually have an anecdote about this. And this might be getting a little personal, so forgive me. But when I was a kid, I was in the middle of a mental breakdown. I wasn't in the middle of a mental breakdown. No, we were watching a movie and I didn't understand something in the rom-com about how the character, it's just some fucking movie that was on TV. I don't even remember what it was. Doesn't matter. Like, I was confused by something a character did, so I asked my mom about like what it was, and she told me, you just might not understand that romance stuff because you're autistic. And I was a little bit taken aback. I was like, what do you mean? It turns out she had just not told me and just decided that then was a good time to like dump her weird opinion about the fact that autistic people can't form meaningful romantic connections for some fucking reason. I mean, look how well that worked out for you, Mom, I guess. But I think ultimately they felt like if they just didn't tell me and they just like raised me a certain way, I would turn out fine. But that's just not how it works. And instead, I just ended up having no support through my entire childhood for things that could have been supported and like compensated for. I could have had a lot better experience through school, but genuinely all of my experience in school was fucking awful and miserable. I think I only had a few major happy points, but it was miserable most of the time. You didn't save it, but I can find it again and sell it. Yeah. No, it's just, yeah, just the decision to just throw that at me. It caused me to have a mental breakdown. It actually almost caused an attempt. It's just like fucking crazy shit. This is all in the past, so I don't feel too bad talking about it, but it was, yeah, you're talking about it more and more. I sometimes I go over something in my head and I'm like, oh yeah, that was definitely trauma. when people cite autism, I feel like they typically think of very severe cases, and I just think they can't do anything without. Yeah, exactly. There's so many more, like, it's a spectrum, and people don't understand that. Like, a very small minority of people that actually are autistic are going to be like completely unhelpable cases where they need to be like live with supported living. That's just not what autism is. A lot of the time it's not very visible. The worst thing about it is that autism isn't even like a mental thing. It can be, autism can be comorbid with like mental disabilities and things like that, but it's not actually a mental disability. Autism is a social disability. It's, yeah, it isn't to become vegetable. It doesn't even like, that's not what it does. Right. According to documents supposedly leaked to the Telegraph, a British tabloid, the National Health Service (NHS) in the United Kingdom will test all children who believe they are transgender for autism. Every child referred to a gender clinic will be screened for neurodevelopmental conditions such as autism and ADHD under new guidance, the Telegraph reports. In such cases, the team of doctors will have to determine if the child's symptoms are caused by autism or whether they also need separate treatment for gender dysphoria. The NHS did not respond to Aaron in the Morning's request for comment, and Aaron in the Morning could not independently verify these claims at the time. So while this policy is not yet set in stone, it would not come as a surprise. It echoes the policy guidelines set up by the CAST Review, a 2024 document commissioned by the NHS of England. CAST Review has been widely rebuked by trans people and experts in the trans healthcare field, none of whom were actually allowed to have any authority in the report's creation. The CAST Review asserts that this is part of a utilitarian effort to create holistic healthcare for transgender children. In reality, the UK's proposed mandate on autism and ADHD assessments seems to be another intrusive, needless barrier disguised as safeguarding yet another instance of anti-trans pseudoscience cloaked in the language of caution. And it's part of a growing trend targeting both trans people and autistic people, groups with a statistically significant overlap. Which is a linked article from Slate, which talks about a case study of an autistic child with gender dysphoria. Autism is more common in gender diverse youth than the general population. These studies seem to support the hypothesis that transgender identities are rooted in biology, especially when combined with all other studies pointing to a strong heritable component of transgender identity. On the other hand, it's possible that autism is overrepresented among trans youth because autistic people are less concerned with social norms and less likely to bow to social pressures that keep other trans people from coming out. Our ability to study gender dysphoria and diversity is limited by the fact that there are such strong social pressures starting in early childhood to conform to gendered expectations. There's no way of knowing how many people hide their transgender identity, so we can't know for sure whether studies of openly transgender people are representing the full picture at this time. Yeah. Certainly, you can find the cases for kids for whom some aspect of autism seems to be driving gender dysphoria, but over time, we're seeing that a good number of neurodiverse teens coming into gender clinics truly are transgender or gender diverse. One practical outcome of this research is that clinicians are recommending that autistic youth should be screened for gender dysphoria, and the clinics that work with gender dysphoric youth should screen clients for autism as well. Both of these things are actually fine. The issue is that you're using it to like discriminate against them. Yeah, a lot of symptoms overlap because like they're comorbid. It doesn't mean they cause each other. It just means a lot of the time these two things interact. They just happen at the same time. It doesn't. Beyond that, Kaplan suggests that our culture should be more open to letting autistic people explore gender identity rather than invalidating their gender identity because they're on the spectrum. People with autism have just as much right to self-determination as anyone else. And whether autism is genetically linked with gender dysphoria or not, there is no evidence that autistic people are less likely to benefit from gender transition than anyone else. Good article. Yeah, neurodivergence has been weaponized by bad faith in LGBTQ forces. Again, they're saying that like gender transition, gender dysphoria is just a symptom of a disease that you have, something that you can fix, right? Because they view being trans as bad. They view it as something that you need to fix in order to be healthy. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating being like, it's hard to put into words for somebody who's watching who might be cis. And maybe I'll just zoom in. It's hard to put into words how frustrating it is to have your identity, something that you've put a lot of thought and care and consideration and backtracking and like blood and sweat and tears, something that you've gone through all of the effort to get the medicine for or the social treatment for, something that you throw away your life in order to achieve, like in a completely selfish pursuit of trying to be happy. It's very frustrating to see that identity be considered some sort of disorder or downgrade or like something that's wrong with me or something that I've been tricked into believing or any number of these other extremely offensive, conclusions that people draw. Because again, when you come out as trans, everybody has a fucking opinion about it. And almost nobody asks like what you want or what your thought process was or anything like that. It's always accusations, questions, doubt. Could it be this? Could it be that? As if you haven't already gone through that process for yourself a million times. As if you haven't already asked yourself if it could be literally anything else. Because it's really fucking hard to be trans. And it's really fucking scary to come out to everybody. It sucks to have your entire experience boiled down to something that can be fixed. Like, I'm happier now than I've ever been. And it's not just because I'm transitioning, but that definitely pulling that particular needle out of myself, that particular like problem being solved, helped cascade into more good things for me, more important revelations, more energy to deal with complicated feelings. It made me more willing to engage in physical touch and fashion as a hobby, and a million different things became so much easier for me because I didn't have that always looming sense of something being wrong. It's hard because again, gender is a feeling thing. It's both neurological and it's social. But it being neurological means it's this internal thing that you feel, and it's hard to put it into words. But I mean, gender dysphoria just means discomfort. It's it's a persistent discomfort with the thing that you've been signed up for. You know, I didn't like anything about the way that I looked or the way that I presented or felt. And, you know, I wasn't like doing a bad job of being a guy. I just didn't like it. It made me miserable. And it's hard to explain that to someone who doesn't have that experience, right? People who are like, I've been unhappy. It kind of gives me the same frustration as when somebody's like, you know, oh, you're depressed, just go outside and like hike or do push ups about it. Like, yes, exercise can help, but to just completely dismiss everything else about it, it's the kind of frustration that I have when a doctor dismisses a bunch of things that I'm feeling because I'm just overweight. Because there's a prejudice against that too. You know, a lot of the when I was talking to my therapist about a lot of issues that I was having at the time, like all of these mental health things, a lot of the time it came back to like, oh, well, you're taking a bunch of hormones, you're probably unstable because of that, and it'll pass or whatever. And it just felt very felt like being treated like a teenage girl who's just being so crazy because your hormones are so out of whack, and it's making it like as if the feelings that I'm feeling aren't legitimate feelings that I would like to talk about. You start to notice little things like that. I think that ultimately there comes a certain point in your transition where you stop worrying so much about trans specific issues. I mean, maybe not right now because it's just so prevalent in media and the news and insane. It's just, oh, yeah. But I think there comes a point in your transition where you really stop worrying so much about being trans and just the problems that you're dealing with are more just like sexism and just problems that come intrinsic with being a woman or being a man. I mean, and that's nice. It's definitely something I would rather be worrying about. Unfortunately, I have to worry about all this bullshit. uh we do not wish to see national autism registries. I do not want them to have a list of of all of the autistic people. I do not like them having a list of all of the people with disabilities and all of the people who are trans. I do not like it. Dino Green, thank you so much for the follow. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. I hope you're having a good day. Um, who asked for data? Oh, HIPAA being wrote in. They asked for data from smartwatches. Ew. Gross. What's up? What's up? Yeah, we're just going over. We were having a little discussion about identity and all of that late night browsing. Very nice, very nice. We've been going over news, unfortunately. Let's see. Article that was sent. This one's pretty crazy. This one is from CNN. So it kind of sucks. I'd rather not read off CNN. We'll see if this even opens, but the Justice Department ends a civil rights era school desegregation order in Louisiana. When the Justice Department lifted a school desegregation order. You know, great. In Louisiana this week, officials called its continued existence a historical wrong and suggested that others dating to the civil rights movement should be reconsidered. Like gender identity, yeah. Well, all kinds of identity. Gender identity specifically just because of like what it has to do with like the experience I was talking about, but yeah. At the end of the 1966 legal agreement with Plaque Mines Parish Schools announced Tuesday shows the Trump administration is getting America refocused on her bright future. Yeah. Happy to like talk about it, answer questions, things like that. I know a thing or two. Yeah, no, not social security numbers. Yeah, dozens of school districts across the South remain under court enforced agreements dictating steps to work towards integration. Just amazing that there's still like, yeah, racism is cured though. There definitely isn't like your sis is like in the questioning phase. Nothing wrong with that. Questioning's important, right? It's good to talk. It's good to talk and think about it. That's something we were talking about, right? Is like it takes so much effort. It takes so much like, and we'll come back here because we can just sit and talk. But it takes so much effort and time. Your family's super traditional and conservative, so they only ask you. Well, I'm glad that you're at least like there to talk to her, or whatever pronouns they might use. But it's good to have like having supportive family members was so huge for me originally. I originally only came out to one of my brothers because he was gay and I knew that, and I thought, you know, he would be the most likely to have an okay opinion. It turns out he did. It was really nice, and I don't know if I would have been able to like keep I don't know if I would have been able to keep going down the path if I hadn't had somebody supportive on my side. It sucks to have a traditional conservative family when you're, you know, living a progressive identity, I guess. Unfortunately, I have decided to change my gender to political, so you're curious. If you want advice, absolutely, I'm happy to talk through it with you. It's something that I try to sign myself up for because it's important to talk about. The country you live in isn't very progressive anyway. Yeah, I mean, I won't like dig into that, but based on your time zone, I can imagine. Live and let live. Yeah. Well, I hope so. I mean, I hope ultimately that it is, yeah, not persecuting and hate and stuff. Well, I mean, that was where we were in the U.S. until very recently. So, but still, they won't say it's persecution. They won't say it's hate. They'll just say, "Oh, we're just concerned for the kids." You got political when Orange got in. Yeah. Never got into politics until then, but I see it as a necessary evil to think about when everything happening. Yeah, you got to stay informed. Unfortunately, right now, it's just there's so much hatred. There's so much like there's so many people who are actively seeking to harm my community. It behooves me to be informed because I want to be able to at least light the alarm if people that are less resilient than me need to get the fuck out. No, yeah, the US is on a dangerous backslide into fascism, and it's shocking how quickly it happened. Like, how quickly all of our systems that we were supposed to be able to hold to broke down. And of course, they've been slowly eroded over years and years and infiltrated by people that will willfully ignore the rules, but yeah, no, it's bad. I do not travel to the US. Do not buy things from the US. Do not support the US in any way. It's a fucking fascist dictatorship right now, and I have no fucking idea what's going on. That's a bit extreme, but we're definitely on the way. Go to Canada and then France maybe. I mean, if nowhere else, the place where they were beheading kings is probably a good idea. The big dog ivies, yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, fuck, yeah. We're not exactly very friendly to foreigners either, so I'm not sure if it would have been a good experience for you anyway. But racism is cured here, don't worry. Plan's not around no more. That's a line from Sinners 2025. Go see it. No, don't travel here. don't come here. English is your first language, so it'll be fine. Yeah. It'll be fine unless you're like a shade darker than anyone, or I mean, actually, not necessarily true. I like didn't they deport a bunch of like European people for like doing a backpacking trip or something? Yeah, and there's just like we're just like citizens are getting disappeared off the fucking streets. It's literally insane. And remember, friends, the cruelty is the point. The cruelty is the point. They want you to be scared. They want you to stop resisting. They want you to stop talking. Which is why until they silence me, until God strikes me down, I will continue to get on my soapbox and talk about this shit because I think it's important. I think it's important to get the word out there, even if I'm small and stupid and I don't know anything and even if this never goes anywhere and I'm never successful, I'm never famous, I'm just trying to use my voice for something important. It's not about all of that for me. It's like this is like genuinely important shit that I feel like it's important to talk about. It's like, I mean, when I'm talking about Israel Palestine, like it's like it's something I feel I'm morally required to have an opinion on. I don't know if it counts as courageous. I mean, I guess the idea of courage is like fear of like when you still doing something through fear. So I guess like literally it is courageous, but I don't want to see myself as like some sort of martyr or courageous person. I'm just genuinely doing what I feel is important. Even if it ends up not being successful, because it's just what else can I do? I'm just one woman with no power. Yeah, Ice literally vibe checking based on the name. Yeah, I don't want to give myself too much credit. I'm not like a revolutionary or a leader or anything like that. I'm just a bitch with a microphone. Like I most of the time I'm on here playing Magic the Gathering and the rest of the time I'm on a soapbox. Like it's just an attempt to do something that I think is important and right that needs to be done it's scary that it needs to be, right? And fear, again, is the point. They want you to be scared. They want you to doubt yourself. They want to push you back in the closet. And it's exhausting. It's always so exhausting to have to defend against all of this injustice and against the misinformation and the lies. They never left the closet. Fair enough, but they're trying to keep you in there. And I don't think you deserve that. These people are weird or different, so we should get rid of them? Absolutely. And I think that genuinely, that perspective comes from a more globalized world where you're able to interact with, see, and, you know, talk to people from other cultures and other walks of life and other things, and be able to like get a perspective on things that you don't understand or you might not get exposed to. You don't feel safe to do so. I totally understand that. It's we're pushed, and this I'm gonna get on my soapbox again, and I'm say we're pushed under capital to be entirely individualistic. You know, it's this that we're sold the idea of individualism, right? Where you make your own choices and things like that, but we're pushed into a very specific box of productivity. You have to make your value is only determined by like how much money you make, how successful you are, all of these metrics that are tied to money. I mean, even even my ex, who was big into like knitting and crocheting, was always asked every time she told about her hobby to somebody, like, are you selling these? Are you making money off of it? As if that was some sort of judgment metric. But it was just like a hobby. Why does that matter? Very grateful to have had an international upbringing. I think that's important. Like like the more people are entrenched in one way of living, I think, and I saw this described in a sci-fi story once, that humans have such a strong bonding instinct that they even bond to ideas. And a lot of the time, the first idea that you hear is in your head stays as like the most important one, and you naturally as a person reject evidence to the contrary because it, you know, you have that bond to this thought that you had, whether or not that thought is originally yours. Somehow a lot of them think everyone in the world celebrates their holidays, for example. Yeah. No, America is very America centric. You're meant to just kind of immerse yourself in American culture. I think being able to be exposed to people of many walks of life through the internet, as well as just having an upbringing that allowed me to interact with people of all different social classes, it made me I'm very fortunate to have like developed the opinions that I am, because again, all people are products of their circumstance. I don't necessarily think that a person is evil for having a belief or something like that. It's the actions on that belief that are, when they actively cause harm and intentionally cause harm, that I believe that that's really truly doing evil. It's like, again, it's the difference between transphobia and transmisia, or homophobia and homomisia. Some of the holidays in the US are pretty fire. Thanksgiving does rule. It's a day to eat a bunch of food and get fat and then sleep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a day for the harvest, you know? It's listen, it's origin not great. It's origin not great, but it is a cool little thing. And I do think that like traditions, I think traditions can like deviate over time from their origin. And while it's important to like recognize that origin if it comes from a place of harm, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to continue to celebrate a holiday with a bad origin. Oh, and leftovers. I love leftovers from holidays. Oh. Well, not that I'll be getting very many more from my family at the very least. Alright. I think ultimately I'm probably pretty wrapped up with reading articles, so we will probably move our way back towards playing a game at some point. Probably more Magic. We're trying to get back into season reset, so now I'm trying to get back into Diamond where I was. Yeah, they're more like hate rather than fear, right? It's we were just speaking on that. It's technically it means the same thing, right? But because a bunch of people are very shithead about it and be like, I'm not afraid of trans people, I just want you to die. And it's like, well, okay, then you hate me, so you're transmisiad pilled or whatever. Ugh. Yeah, no, I don't think that Americans on average are ready to like reckon with the fact that America is founded on a genocide. Like I don't think we're ready to do that. They've pushed so much propaganda down our throats as we're growing up that it's genuinely frustrating. And I don't think the average American is ready to reckon with the fact that what happened to the Native Americans was absolutely a genocide. I think that, and of course that's why we support Israel, because we have to in order to justify our own existence. Your line of work tends to attract those kinds of people. I'm so sorry. Do you mind if I ask what you do? I don't mean to be nosy, but I'm interested now that you mentioned it. Yeah, no, yeah, Christopher Columbus is definitely washed. He was a he was a huge fucking asshole. Your country is mandatory military service. Oh, yeah, fair enough. I'm sorry to say. Um, again, I won't be nosy or anything like that, but I hope you're all right. I don't necessarily agree with the idea of mandatory military service. Obviously, I don't think anybody should be pressed into the military. Fine, it's fine. Yeah, okay. Me with my opinions. Positive mindset is the best way to go about it, I think. I mean, that's good. I guess the time when you're bringing in every people from all walks of life, it's mandatory. I imagine there might be a little bit more in the way of no like less attempts to haze at least. I think it might just be the American military that's like supremely ridiculous. A lot of laughs. Well, I mean that's good at least. I know that like the concept of like brother and sisterhood is very strong with most military people, and I think that at least is very good. I think there are positive things to come from like structured living like that. I just wish the military wasn't necessary for it, right? If you just find everything funny, it's not that bad. I mean, yeah, that's a way to cope. No, and I don't think there's anything wrong with like that kind of thought, right? It's good to teach people to bond to each other. Ugh. Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously there's a million things. Again, you're bringing people from all walks of life in. I obviously I don't know where you're at, and I'm not gonna ask that kind of question, but never tell people where you're from on the internet. Don't trust them. Not even me. I'm just a bitch with a microphone. Remember, kids, cover your face when you go to protests. And don't post pictures of your fit online. But, I guess I've been watching Twin Peaks lately. And there is a line that stuck out to me recently, which was, "It is incumbent on the young to rebel," which I like that a lot. Youth are always a little bit more tuned in to the direction the world at large is going, and I think that's another reason that we need to talk about like the agency of children to like make decisions on their own. And I do think that children have wisdom. It's just not the same kind of wisdom that people that are more aged understand. It's following the tide of it having having a conservative mindset, especially in a world that's been accelerating so fast towards the more progressive, probably just it leads you to just so much more misery than you were like than you would necessarily have to deal with on average. You tend to you have to be, in order to be a reactionary, you need to feel like you're constantly under assault, right? You're being reactionary to the things that are being changed around you. People are naturally stubborn, right? I'm opposed to change. I don't like it when things change. It's just part of who I am. I like to dig my heels in and do this. It is easy to keep doing the same thing every single day. It's hard to break myself out of habits and do things that are better for me. But it's through forming that habit that we become better and stronger people. And I think that that is an important thing to push, right? Like society trends towards more progressive because that's what the world wants. I think it's what people want more in general. More people want to be accepted for the kind of person they are. I think people are naturally collaborative and highly individualistic, which means we like to have our own identity and our own self and our own uniqueness and things that make us special. But we also like collaborating with people and meeting people and sympathizing and empathizing with people. It's part of why stories are so important to humanity and to like human culture. No matter what kind of art we're creating, we're always telling a story. We're teaching a lesson. We're communicating an internal experience, which is very core to us as being a person, and trying to relate that, like the lessons within, things about life through a story. And that's why we interpret art. That's why we watch movies and read books and all of these things. It's important for our enrichment, but also for our development. And I think exposure to more things like that, more stories from people from all around the world, helps us develop more empathy, helps us develop, love for the people around us. If we're taught to accept things as they are instead of be so scared, I think that can be unlearned. I think maybe human stubbornness is intrinsic, but I do not think human hatred is an intrinsic trait, right? I think that people tend more often than not towards good than evil, if there is such a thing. I would like to believe that if there is a hell, it is empty. Because I do not think that anyone deserves to suffer forever. It's all about power, right? It's about people playing at power because we are desperate to control what little of this insane world that we can, because we only have so much time here, and it's very difficult to leave a mark on a world so big and incomprehensible and complicated. Some people are very determined to do it, though. If all the strings were cut, there'd be a lot less hate. True. Australia, you just checked Australia. It looks like the left-leaning party won by a good margin. That's awesome. Can't say you're all about good, though. I mean, there are some, it's okay to have, it's okay to have negative, bad opinions. It's okay to be a businessman. Oh my goodness. It's not a bad thing to be a business person. You can still participate in capitalism while critiquing it. It is possible to do both things. And in fact, from inside of the system is maybe the most important and most genuine place that you can critique a system from. Dr. K Rogue, thank you so much. Or Dark Rogue even. Ooh. I was wondering. Well, money is safety, right? Especially in the world that we live in. Money is safety because we live under capital. Money is power, and power provides safety. You can buy safety, you can buy stability, you can buy peace of mind, more or less. You can't buy happiness, maybe, but you can buy stability, and that is a good foundation for happiness. So I do think that it's okay to like money, but the bad comes from the greed of exploitation. Exactly. It's when you push beyond into greed. It's okay to have a little personal hoard. I mean, I have a little personal hoard. Look at all my books. Look at all my kitschy objects. I just, these all cost money. All of the stuff that I surround myself with is stuff that I enjoy, stuff that I love, stuff that I need, that I don't need, but it enriches me. It makes me happier. It would be nice if we didn't have to worry about money for these kinds of things. If we could just live in a world where, but unfortunately that's not the world that we live in. We can idealize it all we want, but you never played Yu-Gi-Oh! Pile Upgrade draws you 2 additional cards from the top of your deck. But then again, who knows what it does. It could be anything. Yeah. Family, money, future. Yeah, again, and you can fundamental 3 Asian values. Fair enough. It's important I think that the emphasis on family is good. I think as long as it is not used to like weaponize loyalty. Um, that's a thing. Again, I can only really critique Christianity just because it's what I'm familiar with as an organized religion. But the society that I grow up in, being mired in Christianity, you know, is lots of paternal devotion. And that is obviously descended from, you know, the, you know, respect thy father, or honor thy father, honor thy mother, but also like your children are seen as more like an extension of you, and they should offer loyalty to their father in the same way that the father offers blind devotion to God. It's a metaphor for fatherhood, right? It's a very paternal religion, and I worry that, like, again, all family um is a good value to have, but it can, like all things, be turned against you. It can be turned into a weapon, just like any knife, right? A knife can be used to cut vegetables, or it can be used to kill somebody. It's the way that you use that tool. True family will whack each other when they feel the need for it. Yeah, fair enough. For me, family is not blood, right? I think it's a definition, a definitional difference. Family is the people that you trust to be there for you when you need it. And maybe that is just like a more queer experience of family, just because we are so. A lot of us do have to, unfortunately, in the Western society that we are mired in, have to give up so much of our family. Like so much of us have to give up our family, our by blood, in order to live a life that makes us happy and fulfilled. Which I just don't think can be a bad thing. I mean, another thing about Christian religion is that it espouses this, you know, great reverence for martyrdom and suffering on earth, and all a lot of especially Puritans believe all hedonism, all enjoyment in life is sin. Or temptation at the very least, which leads to sin. And so ultimately, I think a lot of Christians see being happy as sin, which is a natural conclusion for that thought process. I don't think it's their fault, but it's very obvious to me. What's going on with the Pope so far? He's dead. Or are we talking about a new Pope? Is there a new Pope yet? I don't know. Did Pope Pizza Pasta get elected? I don't know how popes work. I don't know anything about religion. I know a lot of things about religion. I just don't know anything about how religion, like organized religion, works because I don't respect it enough to learn. Something about smoking a bunch of weed in the Capitol and whatever color it comes out is the name of the Pope or whatever. I mean, he's got a funny name now, but eventually if he does get picked as the Pope, you know, he's gonna have to change his name, and it's gonna be something a lot more normal, like, or a lot more like generic, like, you know, Penne Regatta or something, right? That was a joke. You're allowed to laugh. All right, I think I've probably bored you enough with this conversation. What do we say we try some games of Magic then? Bro, to Mythic, we're working on it. Penne Ricotta. It could go well, yeah, yeah. Ugh. Been late? No problem. Thank you for sticking around. Yeah, and hit me up if you have any questions. We have a Discord server we have where you can connect with me or whatever. If you've got genuine questions, as long as you're engaging in good faith, I'm happy to answer. I mean, identity is difficult. It's not fixed and it's hard to understand, especially for somebody that might not have the language or might not even like have the experience, right? So I try to offer my insight. I have opinions. I've always been an opinionated little bitch. I've just gotten better at actually saying them instead of hiding them inside my butt. Wow, what the fuck am I talking about? Why did I say it like that? Doing the prerequisite category change. Get them out! They're in my butt! Okay. Hey, there we go. We're gonna do some best of one, and we're gonna play Azorius Omniscience combo. Let's rank up a little. How many magic cards exist now? It's probably coming up on 40,000 different magic cards. If we're talking about magic, like all magic cards that have ever been printed, like individual printings of like single cards. Obviously, not saying like how many cardboard cards have been created, because I fucking have no idea. But Duress. Uh-oh. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And there's my Abuela's Awakening. I just gotta make sure not to get counterspelled. Grab that. Hydrate. I got coffee right now. I'll grab water in just a minute. Oh, they're so holding up a counter spell. Discard a card. We'll discard that Omniscience. Okay, they didn't like that. Oh, wait, I gotta get water. Sorry, I'll be right back. Merlin, you're in charge of the stream. People usually stick with the same deck or cards. People usually stick to the same formats, I think. I would say most players don't know of very many cards. I say I probably know more than average, but I still probably don't know a lot of them. Because a lot of cards are really bad and therefore do not see any play. So I tend to know cards that are being played in formats that I like. Gotta get a white source here because we have a temporary lockdown and we don't want to lock ourselves out of it. Ooh, is this aggro? This might be a good answer. The percentage of good cards versus bad cards, that's very objective, I think, or very subjective, I think. It definitely depends on who you ask. Like 50-50? I don't think so. Oh, they're tokens. It's definitely a lot less good cards than bad cards. But I don't know for sure the like exact number. Yeah, we're gonna counter that spell. Yeah, they don't really get a lot of use. They're meant, a lot of the cards that they release that are not very good are meant to be like for draft. There are lots of different things that like the designers of Magic design for. We take the riddle. Humble that. Is there a lower power format? Yes, there are a lot of lower power formats. There's lots of formats with different rules, right? And then a lot of the time you're also going to run into like ranked, so that you're going to get matched against people with similar deck construction and like play styles. There's Omniscience. A little late on that, though. I need something that lets me discard. A land and a lockdown, probably. We're just playing control here. We just gotta be patient. I think we just play the lockdown now and just get, like, sweep up all their shit. It's a nice little cleanup card. Lightning Helix me. Okay. Caretaker's Talent, cool. Second Omniscience, not great. Let's do Invasion. Search my library. I need a 2-mana card that lets me discard, so we'll grab Chart a Course. Play the land, Chart a Course, draw 2 and discard a card. Owie. They hit me for 3. Hey, X is 0 for Omniscience. Play Omniscience for free. Protection for my combo. I forgot to get my water. I just left it there. I doubt I'm gonna be able to actually show off the combo. It's a little bit annoying to sit through, but it basically guarantees me victory if I do it right. So most people know about it now and tend to surrender as soon as Omniscience hits the field. I'm also gonna go plug in my vape. We are back. Okay. This one does not have a nice turn 2. But I think we're fine with that. We're control. Though, oh, let's mulligan this. That's better. Throw back the invasion for now. Just draw land, easy. Oof, this one without any removal might be rough. I should put Spell Pierce in here. I might just end up being dead before I can do anything to them. Like, this might just end up being a turn for me being exploded because they're on the play. Is the auto deck easy to make? It has a bunch of rares, so it's not super easy. You're not gonna see it as often as mono red. Whoa. Oh boy. They literally need to cast one spell next turn, and I do not think I got it. Yep. Shuffled away my Afara's Dispersal, but I'm not even sure that would have saved me there. It might have made me live for a turn longer, though. I guess that's the point, right? I only need to disrupt him for a turn. I don't even know if Spell Pierce would do anything there. Yeah,
Sometimes
that was just
you
bad.
lose to red.
It's true. Sometimes you just lose. Mossum sauce. That's a furry. Fara's Dispersal is pretty good. Keep the Chart, of course, because then next turn we can do both Fara's Dispersal and cast the Chart, of course. I can Chart, of course, and have the Fara's Dispersal open. No. Is it possible to make a landless deck? Yes. It is very difficult, though. We are not going to play into their obvious counterspell here. Okay. Sounds funny. Yeah, it's funny. Definitely. This is obviously some kind of storm deck. Hold open the riddle. No tax. And turn. Pass. Discard Omniscience. Or hand size. My favorite card? Oh god, probably Amoeboid Changeling. He's just such a funny little guy. Let's try to get some of these out of their hands. They're letting me? Oh my god, I thought they had a counterspell. What? Are they countering this, maybe? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Search my sideboard. I'm gonna grab a counter spell probably, since I have the second invasion. This will protect my combo. I really hope they tap all their lands because a temporary lockdown will be absolutely devastating if they do. Okay. What? Not really sure how this deck is expecting to win. Okay. They're gonna run out of resources eventually. They just had enough to hold me at bay. I could have won last time if I'd played double omniscience, but that was my fault. My fucking daily. Have I even been doing it? I did it already. Oh, why is that up? The hell? I'm sorry about that. I didn't even realize. Whew. And graveyard library. Search my sideboard for this town. This, target, this, and this. Search graveyard. This town. Invasion. Sideboard. Heroic reinforcements. This town. Target these. Graveyard, this town. Cast. Doop, doop. I'm just gonna loop that forever. So we start to see the combo. I can get rid of their whole board, and then I'm going to make infinite tokens and swing for their face. All I need is one turn with this deck, and that's so fucking scary. I love combo. Oh, the omniscience on the mill, that's so nice. What do you even do? Hello. Take a second of Boiler's Awakening. They have a get lost. Ooh, they tap out. You can actually have that. Now we're just digging. Yeah. Omniscience is cool as fuck. This deck works better in best of one, which is why I'm playing it in best of one. Because you really just got to catch people by surprise. When they get sideboarding, it starts to get a little weaker. I can still definitely play it best of 3, and I probably will later, but right now we're just grinding ladder. We got a good blocker, we have Moment of Truth if we need it, we have Temporary Lockdown here. I think this is a pretty good hand. Pretty good curve. Meticulous Archive activates the Flood Farm Verge, and we can dig for a 4th land, because we need that for Abuela's Awakening, so the next thing we gotta do is just dig for the Abuelas. As far as dispersal, we don't want that. No, we can get rid of it. Grab that Abuela's Awakening. Now we just need to discard our Omnisciences. You can actually have that. I don't really care. I need a land that enters untapped. I already have the white I need, so that's fine. Still does not kill us. Amazing. We actually got there. We need to draw something. We need to draw one of our 4 copies of Invasion of Arcavios, or a card that lets us draw into it. They did not want to deal with it. That's all we gotta do. We don't even gotta we just gotta break their spirit. You don't gotta win. You just gotta make it so your opponent doesn't want to play anymore. Seems good to me. Ooh, we're playing against a Reanimator deck. I'm a hold open counter spell for sure. I don't. Yeah. Counter that. Search sideboard. Yeah. We got there. I like Omniscience combo. It's cool. I'm sure there's people that think it's cheap, but I think there's people that think combo in general is cheap, and I do not agree with them. That is a turn 1 and 2 play technically. Keep that. What's a cheap deck to you? I don't really know if there is one. Maybe ones that are using like cards that are very clearly exploiting the game's rules, right? Like decks that are making a lot of use of cards that probably should be banned. Village the Bog. And Graveyard Library. I mean, like, if it's in the game, right, it's not unfair. There are ways around it. I think that, like, even cards that stop your opponent from playing the game are, like, counterplay, right? That's a type of deck construction. It's a way to build a game. It's a removal that's different. It's neat. We gotta dig. Little stupid, I just realized I could be playing Invasion to search for Abuela's Awakening. Probably should have been doing that. Can't say no to lands anymore, but they have to. Now the only way to win is to play Omniscience fairly. Not something I'm keen on doing if I can avoid it. Okay. Hmm. No. Bitch, I don't know why I didn't do it. I'm sorry. Just anything. A hard fought, but ultimately futile attempt. Hmm. Another game. Maybe we'll run up against somebody who doesn't run main deck Graveyard Hate and exile all of my combo pieces. Fine. That's what we like to see. Oh. Okay. Opponent has seen enough. He's such a baby. Seems pretty good. Alright, I think that might be a sign. It's about 5 p.m. Let's see who's. Yeah, fuck it. I'm sending over to Pete. I want to go watch her stream. Oh, I can't read them. It's probably fair. Should go watch Eden's stream though. All right. All right, we'll send you over to. I hope you're all having a lovely rest of your day for sure. But I gotta grab something for myself to eat, and I will see you all very, very soon. Thank you for being here.
I am under attack. I think I got the game captures up. Maybe. Oh, there it is. Doi. Hi, hi. Fenico's visiting the island today. And cappuccino. We like cappuccino.